You are simply a machine.
I am a machine.
Nothing more.
Nothing more.
Fucking machines everywhere.
The story of Robocop centres around Alex Murphy, a police officer who is killed by a group of baddies headed by Clarence Boddicker. In a revolutionary new program by Bob Morton, who works for OCP, which stands for Omni Consumer Products and could equally stand for obviously corrupt parasites, Alex's body is transformed into a new crime-fighting machine, Robocop. He's part man, part machine, with his body mostly composed of titanium but has an organic digestive system, parts of Alex's brain, and his face. As Robocop hits the streets to deal with crime, he starts having flashbacks of his murder and his family. Robocop becomes obsessed with taking down the naughty boys and serving his own justice. Released in 1987, this film was post-Terminator, which had already dealt with the whole robot sci-fi thing, but Robocop sets its own identity much the way Terminator did. The story alone sets itself apart from most action films in that it is a genuinely sympathetic protagonist that the audience can cling to. With Alex Murphy being transformed into a robot that is purely designed to fight crime, Robocop ends up having more humanity than most of the other characters. He knows what's right and what's wrong because it's written into his programming, with the so-called prime directives being his moral code. The original Robocop was smart in its delivery, as it manages to be timely and timeless all in one go. The film itself, although set in futuristic Detroit, is very indicative of the 1980s.
I'm going to do this backwards, and that's what makes it look like hip-hop.
It posed numerous political themes and events that were happening around that time, the most prominent being news stories about nuclear weapons, and was exaggerated through unusual commercials such as one for a bizarre family board game called Nukem. Yet anyone can still watch the film today and enjoy it for what it is. A really good film.
Casey?
Yes, it was a day of mourning for the families of 113 people known dead at this hour. Among them, 2 former United States presidents who had retired in the Santa Barbara area.
Who said that? Which one of y'all dead motherfuckers just said that shit? Was it you, String Bean? You skinny ass looking motherfucker?
In terms of the casting for Robocop, the filmmakers needed a bloody good actor that was also small and sleek enough to fit inside the suit that they were going to build. Enter Peter Weller. Due to a film he starred in called Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, he was cast as Alex Murphy, not just because of his superior skills as an actor, but also his physical capabilities. He practiced hard to get the movements just right, but his motion was very limited inside the suit. After a weekend of practice, I think the proof is on the screen. As for the suit, it took roughly 10 to 11 hours to get the whole thing on, 3 hours to get into the undersuit, and then another 7 to 8 hours for the team to fix on all the bits and pieces. The suit itself came with limitations, and not just in terms of motion. As Robocop is required to drive during the film, the team quickly discovered that the suit was too big for Weller to actually get in a car. Those with a keen eye will notice that all of the shots of Robocop driving, the footage is cut before he gets in the car. All of the shots are either of Robocop driving or just stepping out of the vehicle. You never see him get in a car. Although set in Detroit, much of the film was shot in Dallas, Texas, with other locations such as the steel mill being filmed in Pennsylvania. The schedule took the production through the dead of summer, and due to the conditions, Weller lost a lot of weight in water alone, so much so that dehydration became a serious worry.
Brian, spit on me. Oh, that's nice.
Robocop was directed by Paul Verhoeven, who went on to make such cult hits as Total Recall and Starship Troopers. With a budget of $13 million, Robocop 1987 opened at #1 and made $8 million in its opening weekend. Robocop went on to gross $53.4 million in its domestic run.
Robocop, the original one, is a movie ahead of its time. It's an iconic film, a very successful film, a very smart film, and being able to look at it with depth, understand the concepts behind the construction of the movie, and try to recreate that universe is a great honor for me.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Fucking hell!
The remake of Robocop had been in development for most of the 2000s, but in 2014 the film finally made its debut with Joel Kinnaman in the title role and several high-profile supporting actors such as Samuel L. Jackson as the late-night talk show host Pat Novak, Michael Keaton as Raymond Sellers, the CEO of Omnicorp, Gary Oldman as Dr. Dennett Norton, and Michael K. Williams as Jack Lewis. So how is this film different from the original? It's different in all the wrong ways. For example, giving the family more screen time was a huge mistake. In the original, the family were only seen in flashbacks. Only being seen through Murphy's eyes made the audience sympathise with him because they hadn't seen the family for themselves and hadn't made their own opinion, therefore Murphy's actions made his character more multi-dimensional. putting the family in front of the audience makes them more 2D and ultimately uninteresting.
I don't fucking care, you got family.
When Murphy is severely wounded, his wife must sign away his body so he can be made into Robocop, which makes it a deeper moral issue in that when he becomes Robocop, she thinks it's okay to stop him mid-justice and whine about their kid for 5 minutes. In the original, it stated that Murphy signed a document that gave OCP the right to do whatever they wanted with his body, so it was his choice, a plot point that was nicely filled in so the story could carry on. In the remake, Alex is blown up in a car bomb that was placed by a crime boss who didn't like Murphy snooping around. As a result of the car bomb, Alex is burned over most of his body and has to have his left arm and left leg amputated. In a remarkably revealing scene, Alex gets to see what is left, nothing more than a set of lungs, his right hand, his face and parts of his brain. At this point, the suit is basically acting as a life support machine.
Yeah. Oh, he did.
How come Alex is burned over most of his body but his face hasn't got a scratch? Also, why did it cross no one's mind to make the suit so that it could withstand the impact of 50 caliber weapons when vital organs are underneath? There are a few positives from the remake. The film seems to have carried on the tradition of taking influence from the current themes of the time. Samuel L. Jackson plays a snarky late-night TV show host that is all in favour of a robotic police force. I can only guess that this character was influenced by the Glenn Becks and Sean Hannitys of late-night television.
Every day when I leave work, I do this.
Also, Joel Kinnaman definitely shows that he has mastered the movement inside the suit, keeping very robotic-like, which is good. Michael Keaton plays a good villain and Samuel L. Jackson is as entertaining as ever, even if it was a small role. However, these positive points are overshadowed by the overgrown gaping monstrosity that is the plot, which is so overly complicated and treading dangerous ground when it's dealing with sci-fi. There are so many elements ranging from Murphy's wife being guilt-tripped into signing a contract that will make her husband a cyborg, and a corrupt CEO man who wants a machine with a conscience so he can get a bill signed and then takes away the emotions when they start to become a problem, which divides the whole point. And there's a doctor who gives amputee patients robotic limbs but won't make weapons but does it anyway because for some reason or another. Then there's this whole conspiracy where the crime
for the scope of robots invading Tehran.
Home.
Clara, please stand aside.
You need to speak to your son.
Oh my god. You fucking kids! I've got places to be!
Robocop 2014 had a budget of $100 million and performed well at the box office, bringing in more than double its initial budget with a grand total of $242 million, which is impressive. However, when you break it down, that figure starts to look a little bit flimsy, which is what happens with anything if you start to break it down. Remember the box office total of $53.4 million that I gave for the original film was a domestic figure, meaning just in the United States. The domestic figure for the remake was $58.6 million, which is still better than the original, but not by much. The remake was subject to an international release, which made the film another $184 million. In summary, my feeling towards the remake is perfectly summed up by the new suit. They've taken all the colour away and put some flashing lights on it. To be honest, the analogies don't get much better than that.
But seriously, there are a lot of fucking machines in here.